Greetings and welcome to Zord Planetary Space Program episode 18, and this is not a rocket. It is a spaceplane that I made. It is the first spaceplane of this space program. It's not the first spaceplane I made. And we're going to take this up to Alpha Station. And I'm going to quickly talk you through how I do this, because it's not trivial to get a spaceplane to orbit. First, we get up to around 12 kilometers, where we flatten out and try to pick up as much speed as possible. This is to make as good a use of our jet engines and the atmospheric oxygen as possible. As we pick up speed and slowly keep on climbing, we get up to an altitude where the jet engines can't be sustained. So we switch from jet engine to rocket power, and on this one I keep the center jet engine running for as long as it runs, because having it in the center means it doesn't give an asymmetric flame out, so we can keep it. And when you got to this point, it's the same deal as when you're flying a rocket. You go from a suborbital arc onto a circular orbit, and that's it. Then most space planes fail either close to launch or close to orbit. And usually if you fail close to orbit, it's because you don't have enough fuel. At least as far as I know. I'm not mainly a spaceplane guy. I focus mostly on the rockets, but I wanted to show this because, proof that I am capable. Really, this is the point of most of the space program, to prove that I am capable of doing the things that I do, fly space planes or dock asymmetrically or go to every planet. So the docking here is slightly interesting, as I dock at an off-center docking node, and thus I have no instruments. Only the velocity meter, speed meter, is the only thing that I can use, because as you see, the docking port is above, and I could have switched it, but that would probably make it more confusing. So there we go, spaceplane docked. Now we're going to refuel it, and then we're going to switch the engines, because as you see, they are modular aerospikes on this one, and we're gonna keep their spikes, but they're not going to be in a position where they are going to provide any thrust. They're going to have to become cargo for a while. So we undock the engine, dock it again to another docking port, and then we take one of the nuclear engines, which you will remember we reused from one of the fuel tankers that went to Minmus, and we attach the nuclear engine in the place where the aerospike used to be. So this is a very good example of the use of modular engines, having both reused engines and having a space plane with nuclear engines that doesn't have to go through the troubles of launching with nuclear engines. Because really, in a situation where you're launching from Kerbin surface, nuclear engines is just a burden. They're basically cargo. So not having to carry them is a great benefit. And now that we have refueled the spaceplane and stocked up on engines, we're going to take it to Minmus, because that's what we do around here. First we go to Alpha Station, then we go to Beta Station. And now with the nuclear engines, we have a lot more delta V on this thing. Not quite enough for me to be sure that it's capable of what it's going to do, at least not without going to Beta Station first. And on our way out, of course, the encounter doesn't look anything at all like it did when we planned it. So we're gonna have to do a second phase of planning. It's always like this. Anyway, what the plane is going to do is it's going to go, maybe you've seen the name, you can guess it already, it's gonna go to Joule and land and take off from Leythe, because the craft that originally was supposed to land and return from Leythe the lander that I brought, turns out it actually cannot do that, not even close. I didn't think of it. Stupid. But this thing should have no problems, none at all. And we're gonna send it at the next Joule window, which actually should bring it there roughly at the same time as the crew. So we won't even be late. This is a rather fortunate turn of events. I am going to put the craft file for the Spaceplane in the description. A link to the craft file in the description if anyone wants it. I know that I think Spaceplane craft files are way more interesting than ones for regular rockets, because there's a lot more ways to screw up a spaceplane. I feel I need to acknowledge right away that the Eve Ascension ship is still in orbit around Minmus. You can see it right here. And this is because of the very simple reason that I completely forgot about it. I didn't realize I had it when it was time to launch the other ships to Eve. So it's still here. Actually, that's also not too much of a problem. Like this spaceplane, it can easily fix the problem. Simply because the Eve window has not yet completely closed. So we're gonna launch it at the next opportunity, and it's hopefully going to arrive soon enough. So here's another daring docking. Almost collides with everything, but it works out. And there we have it, docked at Beta Station, ready for use. Now to the Eve Ascension ship, or EAM I call it. First we need to wait for Minmus to get into the correct alignment relative to Kerbin's orbit, which takes a couple of days and adds a lot of stress to me, who know it's already late and has to wait a week just because it's around Minmus. So it's not ideal to have the craft around Minmus prior to launch, but it's so good not having to deal with these really long burns that you have to do to break Kerbin orbit, rather than to just swoop down with almost a kilometer a second already under your belt and then just pushed out into Planetary. Notice here that the burn to break orbit around Minmus and get into the low Kerbin orbit is 100 something meters per second, and I believe that the maneuver you have to do to get from Kerbin to Eve, or to an Eve orbit, not into Eve encounter, is less than this maneuver we just did. So it's very useful to have this advantage you get with Minmus 2. Anyway, we are launching the craft finally, a bit late, and we are using the interplanetary pusher that we brought for this specific purpose. And it's still shaky and wobbly, but you can run it at full thrust if you quick save before. We're coming down on Kerbin, we pass our periapsis, and on our way up, just as it's supposed to be, we start thrusting. So that's another downside of launching from Minmus. You can't always have the maximum efficiency from the OPF effect. Just almost. So we're finally getting this thing out to interplanetary space, where it needs to be to get to Eve. So we just tweak our encounter. I think that's good enough. And we set up our alarms so that we can enjoy the view from the game view. And now we can finally have this cinematic shot that we missed last time. Let's just enjoy the view. It could practically be a postcard with the whole Kerbin system in the background and this magnificent spacecraft in the foreground. Absolutely beautiful. And there we go, finally on our way to bring one brave, terrified Kerbal back from Eve's surface. That's all we have time for this episode. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!